Some performers make magic from a script. Very few can spin the straw of daily living into television gold. At making entertainment out of nothing, our guest tonight is a master. He's self-deprecating, occasionally amusing. Actually, he's pretty funny. Live each day with Kathy Lee, he's Regis Philbin. Talk Andy out of trying to hire you. His partner, Kathy Lee, is producer Gelman, wife Joy, fighting Irish Cody. His life is played out on television for a legion of fans. His name is Regis Philbin. Reg, good to see you.
Roger, it's good to see you again. I'm impressed with your set.
You like the set?
I feel like I'm going for a loan. You know what I mean? I can't believe it here.
Reg,
very nice.
I hate to bring this up,
yes.
but this book, this new book about Regis called I'm Only One Man, is only 1 year of your life.
Yes.
Doesn't mean we're going to get the other 74 years.
Little snatches here and there, little memories.
Like 74 sequels, like the second year of my life.
No, no. This is just the past year, with some memories thrown in of the past years. As a matter of fact, I think we once shared a show years ago.
Years ago.
The Mike Douglas show, when you had a head full of jet black hair.
That's true. But you know why people go bald?
Why?
Because they have an excess of male hormones. Guys with guys. It's true. Johns Hopkins researched this. And
really?
Guys like you are a little light in that category.
That's right. And you are Mr. Testosterone, I take it.
That's exactly the point. Anyway, why do one on a year of your life? I guess a year of your life is pretty weird, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is kind of weird. They're all kind of weird. No, I don't know, Roger. You know, when Cody, that was the final straw, when Cody wrote his own book.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Kathy Lee, there was a book about
Kathy wrote a book, Frank wrote a book.
4 months, wasn't he?
Exactly. No, he was 4 years old.
Okay.
Can't write, he can't read, he can't spell. He wrote a book. That was the last straw.
That's when you said, even I can do that.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And when he got on the bestseller list, it drove me nuts. So I...
you know, I know you back from the Westinghouse days.
Yes, right.
You were in San Diego. Chet Collier, who's executive producer now of this network,
yes,
was out there. And actually, let's show a clip of him. This is what Regis was like in San Diego. He's seen this clip, I'm sure. But I love this clip because this was like the early live days of television. And we want to show this, and we're going to have to talk about it. Go ahead, roll it.
The main thing to do is to get this open because if it gets hot, when it gets hot, it automatically locks so that the kids can't burn themselves. Okay? You understand that so far? Want me to turn it this way, huh? Like that? Okay. So now I ruthlessly open up. I'm going to try Easy Bake, Brownie, Cookie, and Candy Set. They package things, they wrap things today like, it infuriates me to open anything.
It's a mixing bowl.
What are you talking about? You're driving me crazy.
That's a mixing bowl.
Well, what is this for?
That's a baking pan.
The old days.
The old days of live television. Now, what were you doing before that? In other words, that is what you do today, basically.
Yeah,
you come out and discover what's happening, and whatever's happening, you roll with, right?
Before that, I did radio news. I drove around in a little news wagon for KSON Radio in San Diego.
You were in the Navy? You went to Notre Dame?
Yeah, the Navy, Notre Dame, then a page at NBC, right down the street here, and then a stagehand at KCOP TV, Channel 13 in Hollywood. There's my Navy picture.
There he is.
And then down to San Diego to read my own copy. I worked as a stagehand and the news writer for Baxter Ward out there. And wanted to read my own stuff.
When did you get off being Regis that we know, where you could fool around and interview celebrities and just react to what's happening?
Well, it was kind of always like that. You saw a sample of a little piece that we did with a couple of props. But the Saturday night show in San Diego was loose. It was lively. It was a lot of fun. It brought your executive producer of this network down, Chet Collier.
Chet Collier. He said, I remember him calling and say, there's a guy in San Diego named Regis Philbin.
The whole story is in the book, as a matter of fact. Yeah. You know, it's a very unusual story, but I just...
you got fired or canceled, didn't you?
Yeah, we sure did, yeah. But how I got the show was that Chet Collier was standing at a bar across the street from the Steve Allen Playhouse, and Steve was going off, and they were looking for somebody to come in. And Chet was standing next to this young agent, Bobby Levine. I had just signed with GAC many years ago.
General Artists Corporation.
Right. And so he heard this name, Regis Philbin, and he wrote the name down on the palm of his hand. When he woke up the next morning, you can ask Chet about this, he saw the name, and he said, oh, yeah. So he called the young guy, and that's how his interest began.
Man, you'd still be in San Diego if Chet hadn't been in the bar.
And Chet was loyal and patient, you know, in the show. We had 13 stations going into syndication. Didn't really have a chance.
Somebody said there was an astrologer who predicted you would fail. Is that in the book, too?
So I went to Chet, and he said, who do you want on the show? And I said, give me an astrologer. Let's try something new. I've never met this man before, but I think Sidney Omar, we should get him. He's awfully good.
Now, this is like 1963 or something.
64, yes.
64, okay.
So we brought him on, the very first guest of a brand new show, the first night. Didn't want to talk to him before the show. Gave him my birth data. He knew that the time the show was starting. Let him figure out whether or not that show would be a success. And so I brought him out, and I said, well, we've asked you out here, Sidney. Now, win or lose, tell me how we're going to do. And he said, this show is not going to make it. Just like that.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. And he said, you know, there's a fight behind the scenes as to what direction the show will take, and it's not going to be your show. It's not going to be what you're used to doing. And I guess in retrospect, it wasn't exactly... You see, we were on a 2-week tape delay, as opposed to being live in San Diego. And in 2 weeks, everything that I had talked about or could talk about, Academy Awards or an election, the old news in 2 weeks. So I wasn't ready, I guess, or television wasn't ready, or I wasn't ready.
Somewhere in my files is a memo from that year, because Chet Collier asked me to look at the show and write him a memo, and there's a Regis Philbin memo somewhere in my files, which will be in my book someday when I write.
Well, you were a big shot with Westinghouse.
Well, I was a young kid in those days, but I produced Mike Douglas.
Mike Douglas, of course, yeah.
So they asked my opinion, and I remember writing a Regis Philbin memo, which does exist somewhere, and I'll send a copy of it.
As I recall, you know, Mike, who had been a loyal Westinghouse guy and was a tremendous hit in the afternoon, he wanted that show late at night.
Yeah.
As I recall, and Woody Frazier was very offended that Mike didn't get it and he didn't produce it.
Right.
And he came in and there was a kind of an argument with the Westinghouse guys. And here I was privy to all of this, seeing all of this, and made me feel even worse. But I should think that Mike Douglas should, you know, thank the day he didn't get that show, because it couldn't have survived against Johnny, you know.
That's true. Johnny really had it.
Sure.
Did you sit down and dictate this, or how did you do this?
You know what I did,
You actually sit
Roger?
and write it? Or here's a great picture on the back. Well, we should show you that.
That's the picture that they wanted for the cover. Hyperion wanted that for the cover. Roger, which camera are you going to hold that to? He's held it for every camera.
Well, I saw it. There
and
it is.
that shot's out of focus. But anyway,
well,
they wanted that for the cover. They wanted me to, you know, the original cover title was "I'm Out of Control," which Dana Carvey said on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
And I said, no, Dana said that, and it was a lot of fun, but that's not what I wanted. This kind of a pose and that kind of a title. I'm only one man, meaning I'm carrying Kathy Lee, I'm carrying Gelman, I'm carrying right now I'm carrying you, and I'm only one man.
Now, come on.
What?
Can people say that you and Kathy Lee don't like each other, do like each other? Come on. Why
do they say we don't like each other?
Well,
We've been
because
together
you trash. I know, but you trash her.
I do not
She
trash
trashes
her.
you. She's called me several times.
She does trash me a lot.
She's called me up and said,
we know what our job is, and it's to go across that little high wire every day, every morning for 20 minutes.
Right.
Not easy to do.
Right.
Nobody else does it the way we do it, at least. And if we have fun with one another, we know where it's coming from.
Tell me about television and talk shows. They are so dysfunctional today. You guys never got sucked into that. You never got the transvestite bikers doing the strange
And I really
stuff.
didn't see it coming either. Then all of a sudden, one day I had a day off. And so I'm on my treadmill, and I said, let me look around and see what the other guys are doing. Right. And all of a sudden, it was one salacious topic after another.
Unbelievable. Well, how do you live in that? I mean, all the shows went that way. You didn't.
That's right.
Did you sit down and have production meetings and say, maybe we should put a little sexy in this?
Never once did we do that.
Really?
No, as a matter of fact, the sexier they got, the more we veered away from any little mention of that. No, never did. Wouldn't know how to do it. Wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah,
I'd feel degraded if I did it, you know? Yeah. This is the only thing I know how to do, and that is have fun, little information, and a few laughs, and goodbye.
Maury Povich is a friend of mine, and he feels degraded, but he says, you know, they pay me well to feel degraded.
Well, look, we know all the guys.
Maury
They're
does
good
a very
guys.
high-quality show compared to a lot of people.
Maury, Phil once in a while is
Right.
forced into it. He doesn't like it either.
Right, yeah.
Geraldo, you know, these are good, solid guys and
Right.
good, solid broadcasters who I guess, because they have to, are doing it.
Yep. Okay, we've got to take a break. We'll be back with Regis Philbin right after these messages. I'm only one man, and I'll carry him through the next segment. We'll be right back.
I tell you this from the bottom of my heart, and you must accept it as a friend.
Yes.
You're not ready for the big time.
You're right. You've got to give a little, take a little, and let your poor heart break a little. That's the story of, that's the glory of. Wait a minute, Joe. Wait a minute, Joe.
Joey Bishop, you sing pretty good. Do you sing in the nightclub act?
Well, you know, yes, I do. Yes, I do now. But in those days, I hadn't sung at all. And one night, Bing Crosby was a guest on our show. And every day, Joey and I would take a walk up Vine Street, up to Hollywood Boulevard, over to Cahuenga and back, you know, to relax him before the show. And when you walk with somebody for 3 years, you know, what did you want to be when you were a kid? And so I told him I really wanted to be a singer. Every kid goes through that stage.
Right.
I knew all of Crosby's songs when I was 5 years old. So one night, Crosby's on the show. And they wanted Bing to sing, but they were all afraid to ask him to sing, you know, before the show. So they thought maybe they'd get him to do hum a few notes live on the show. So Joey said, Bing, you see this kid? He's your biggest fan. Be the biggest role in his life if he could sing Pennies from Heaven to you. I think what he meant to say was, if you could sing Pennies from Heaven to him. So it came out the other way around, and there's Bing Crosby turning, looking right at me, you know.
Oh, my God.
And Johnny Mann never knew what was going on anyway, so they started playing Pennies from Heaven, and I sang the whole song to Bing Crosby.
Did you do it well?
Well enough.
You were singing pretty well. Yeah.
Well enough to get a telegram the next day from Alan Mink, Mercury Records, 55 Wacker Drive, Chicago.
Right.
Would you like to do an album of old Bing Crosby songs?
You're kidding.
And I made an album. And so that was the afternoon.
That album sort of died, though, didn't it? I mean,
died a horrible death.
Yeah,
no, Joey held it up a lot, and they sold about
That's right.
40,000.
Yeah.
They just brought it back in CD.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Yeah? Now, did Crosby sing? Did you ever
No,
get him?
he never sang. He never got over the shock of me singing.
The
He never
guts
sang.
of you sitting there
Oh,
singing to
please.
Crosby. It's just,
I couldn't believe
is there anybody you never met that you would have been in awe of?
that I never met.
Or that you know, that you've always wanted to be on the show but never, I mean, you've seen everybody in the business.
Well, yeah.
Anybody you missed?
Oh, right now we'd love to have Johnny Carson come on, you know.
Yeah, right.
That would be a thrill.
He's sitting in his room playing his drums, you know, watching the old
He'd
show.
like to be right here
That's
talking
right,
to
he wants
Roger
be-
Ailes.
Absolutely.
Applying
Johnny,
for a loan.
Quit calling us. You know what I mean? Quit calling us.
Over the years, though, I've been on either, you know, my show or someone else's show where I met practically just about everybody.
Are you a lot of fun at home, or do you like depress your wife when you go home? Because you have to be up all day.
Like to press my wife?
Yeah, I mean, you go home and depress her.
Oh, depress.
Depress
I
her,
thought
yeah.
you said press her.
No, depress. No, I didn't mean that like you're
No, we have a lot of laughs.
Do you have
Joey
some
and I.
laughs at home, too?
I'll
Because
tell
I mean,
you
you're
those.
on all day.
No,
I mean,
you're absolutely right. The best part of my day, and I guess it's because of these early morning shows, is the early morning time slot. And so I am on, I guess, for the show, and the audience is there, and they give you a sense of energy, and we have a lot of laughs and fun, and then you slowly go downhill. Right now, I'm just almost at the bottom of my level. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
we were noticing.
And looking at you, Roger, it's going to put me out altogether.
No, I brought it up because I saw you fading, and I said, you know, this is probably nap time
But
for
let me
Regis.
ask you something,
What?
Mr. Interviewer.
Okay, all right.
You know, you're like every other producer in this business. You sit there in the darkness over there and you watch your guy host a show and you say to yourself,
I can do that. What did I tell you about this?
I can do it better.
No, actually,
In
I
your
didn't say
heart,
that.
why do you have this show now? You're running
Because
this thing.
I'm running the network. Nobody can tell me
Yes,
no.
I
That's why.
know, but in your heart, you must have wanted to do this years ago.
No, not years ago.
When did you start?
Not until I quit politics 3 years ago. And I thought I had enough life experience and had spent enough time with guys like you know, sort of shallow guys, that I could bring something. No, actually, because I spent 25 years in the business.
Sure.
I didn't have a lot of confidence in my staff, so I knew I was going to have to come up with a lot of the questions myself.
And you
I
have.
did.
Well, I want to
was
tell you,
right.
one
No,
night.
I'm just kidding.
One night I saw.
Kidding, staff.
One night I saw Jerry Lewis here.
Yeah.
And it was a terrific interview. Really, he has never been better, never been more articulate. And the questions, because I happen to know a little bit about Jerry and the Dean Martin and that whole relationship, I thought your questions were right on the money. So I was very happy with that.
Well, thank you. But about 3 years ago when I started this network, I decided that with the exception probably of Larry King, there are not many shows on television where the guests get to actually talk about what they want to talk about.
Are you saying mine is one of them?
Yes, you bring people on, you blow them off quick, you bake a cake, and they're gone.
That's
and you
it.
say,
7
here's
minutes.
the book, read the book if you want it, and that's it.
Look at this, Roger Ailes getting nuts on the show. I came here for a loan. I can't even get a book mention.
So, you blow them off quick, get a couple laughs, they're gone. You know what I mean? Nobody gets to sit down and actually talk about
All right,
themselves.
let's talk, Roger.
Now,
what else you want to ask?
What was this deep need in you to be a performer as a child? Oh, come on.
No, I didn't have a deep need. I had a deep fear. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until I was getting out of the Navy when this tough Marine major said to me, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I think I want to be on television. And he said, don't you know you can have anything you want in this life? You just got to want it bad enough. And now, do you want it? Yes, sir, I want it. And I jumped in the car and ran up to Hollywood and applied for jobs up there as a stagehand. Never sure that I would be ever able to look into the lens and talk into it.
When did you get over that fear enough to actually say, okay, you know what? I shouldn't be a stagehand. I should be out front.
Okay, I was writing for Baxter Ward, and I would stand deep in the shadows and wonder, could I ever do this? Because I admired him so much. I also wrote a little sports show for Tom Duggan. He paid me $5 a week to compile the sports, a 15-minute sports show, KCOP, late 50s. And one day, Duggan didn't show up, and the producer, Irwin Burke, said, you're the only one who knows what the sports is because you put it together. So he gave me a tie, I borrowed a jacket, I went on camera, and I must have talked a mile a minute because I knew I had exactly 15 minutes a copy, and I did it in 11 minutes. And that left... and that left...
You don't know what that is,
That's
folks,
funny,
but
that's
that is funny and that is terror. I got to take a break. Household work.
I didn't see this.
Huh? I did that, but you got coffee on my thing here. You spilled when you went like this. Okay, we'll be right back.
Over.
And Regis, that's not dysfunctional, that last shot? That was pretty dysfunctional.
It was
you went home like that, too.
It was about as weird as we get, but Gilman had an idea for Halloween that I would become her, she would become me, and there we are, believe it or not.
Now, what is the essence of her? How did you capture her? And I can see what she's doing with you, kind of cocky, kind of macho, kind of...
She's an up person, you know, fun, very charity-minded, wasn't too hard to capture.
Really?
You would have a problem with.
I didn't mean to throw your book on a vibrator.
Threw it right on the floor.
No, it's a very healthy book. It's fine. This is the book we're talking about. I'm only one man. Where'd you start saying I'm only one man? You're carrying all these people.
Well, that was years ago.
Really?
You know, there was a running joke, and I thought of that for the title.
What do you do when you're not working? I read you go out 3 or 4 nights a week so you have something to talk about, because otherwise there's not much in your life.
Actually, sometimes I actually do that, force myself to go, and you're dead tired, you know, because it will give me something to talk about. You know, we do the first 20 minutes every day, and so I've got...
Do you ever get tired of talking to guys, say, hey, Regis, give me the cab drivers, this kind of, because you tell great stories about those kind of people. You like those people.
Yeah, they furnish me with a lot of material as well. Cab drivers are great. I'll tell you one funny story. There's a guy that various radio stations employ who sounds like me, who then calls in their station pretending to be me and starts yelling at Kathy Lee and Gelman, makes up some funny material, and it's good for 5 minutes. Well, there's such a station here in the New York area. So one day I get...
Is that you on Imus, or is that this guy? I heard you on Imus.
That's this guy. I've been on Imus once, but this guy calls in other stations. So apparently he called in, he's a regular on one of these stations, and one day I get into a cab with a guy named Angel Rodriguez, and the cab driver says, you're Regis Philbin. He says, yeah. He says, you call in that station every week, don't you, and talk to them on the radio. I didn't want to go through it that somebody else does it. It was too long a story, so I said, I didn't want to bust this guy's bubble either. So I said, you know, Angel, that is me. I'll be darned. I'm going through the transverse to get across from the east side to the west side, and he's got that station on, and the guy says, and now, here's that Regis Philbin guy again calling in on the phone. Hi, Regis. Now, Angel's listening, and I just got through telling Angel, you know, yeah, that's me, stupid, you know.
So that's the guy in the back's a
Angel
liar.
has never felt the same about me since then.
Oh gosh, do you have a time to recharge during the day? I hear you work. I know you work out, but
Yeah.
I mean, do you have to work out just to get
I
pumped
do.
for the show?
That keeps up my energy up,
Yeah.
yes. And once in a while, I will take a nap late in the afternoon. But and I don't get
Do
up
you eat
that
that
early.
stuff you and your wife are doing in that commercial? What are you eating? Those crackers? Down
Crackers,
there in bed?
yes.
Do you have the
Nope.
crackers in the bed, or do you?
No, that was the commercial.
Yeah.
No, but we have them in our kitchen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
the crackers are fine. No
Yeah.
fat, low fat, terrific.
You eat that stuff?
Yes, apparently you don't,
No,
Roger.
I don't eat it. That's right.
Got one in on old Raj.
Listen, I used to be heavy. The book itself. Let's go back to this book. I'm Only One Man. Now, are you going to bring out other years of your life, or was this the best year of your life?
I think that's just
This is it. Right?
That's it.
I mean, we're not
yes.
going to have to do this again.
I don't think so. I wrote it out longhand, you know, and it was pretty tedious.
Yeah?
I don't run a computer. I wrote it out in longhand on big legal. Didn't Nixon do that, or somebody wrote a book?
Yeah, Nixon used to. You and he had a lot in common, actually.
And Nixon was a guest here in the
Yeah,
book.
that's right.
And so anyway, I couldn't do that again. And then I would dictate it into a phone, and Bill Zemby would get it. He'd send it to a transcriber. We did it the hard way. She'd send it back to him. He would do a little editing here and there and send it on to the publisher.
Did you ever wonder what you'd be doing today if you hadn't caught on in television? I mean, had that show canceled and you'd have bombed, what would you be doing?
Well, I was out of work for a year on 2 or 3 occasions, and I talk about that in the book, and I would actually sit down and wonder what it was that I could do other than, you know, be on television. And I could never think of anything that really appealed to me or that I could do.
So you'd be sort of homeless or just kind of like hanging around?
You'd like that, wouldn't you,
Well,
Roger?
no, I mean, I just think...
Another show for you to take over. You and Kathy Lee would be a formidable pair.
We have a lot in common.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We went to a Knicks game one night. You a big basketball fan?
Yeah, I am, and I was sorry to see Pat Riley leave. I thought that was an exciting era in New York, but, and, you know, he's got his own way of doing things, and I was amazed that... I guess in New York, if you don't produce, even if you're Pat Riley, you could fall out of favor.
I think that's right. This is the toughest town in the...
Toughest town in the world. Dan Reeves going through it right now, and of course Al Kotite, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a tough town.
And it's that way. It's corporate life, it's television, it's everything. You go over and save Letterman every once in a while.
Every now and then when he needs something, a little jolt, you know, I go over. And then there's quite a dogfight, speaking of broadcasting.
Yeah, I mean, everybody thought Letterman had that one. Leno's made a very strong comeback.
He just didn't go away. Remember the scene in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid where they're riding the horses and behind them comes the posse or whatever it was?
Right, yeah.
And Newman kept saying, who are those guys, you know? Who are they? They just wouldn't quit coming.
That's right.
Same with Leno. He just
Who
never
are
got
those
tired.
guys? That's
So it's
right.
going to be quite a dogfight.
You went through some health problems. Are you all right?
Yeah.
Are you?
Unless you've heard something.
No. Well, the insurance company's on the phone. They asked me to ask this question. They've been trying to get a hold of you.
I had a blocked artery right up here, and the pain became quite intense, and I always thought I had pulled a muscle in the gym. So I just, you know, denied it. And then one day, making the commercial, Carnival Cruise Line, I just had a cameo in one of her commercials out at sea, it really became intense, and went to see the ship's doctor.
Was it just like a sharp pain? Or
Yeah,
what's
that
it
would
feel
come
like?
and go, you know, a sharp pain that would come and go. And he suggested I stop at Mount Sinai and Miami Beach on my way home because he didn't know what it was, but it sounded serious to him. I did. They ran the camera, you know, up into the area, looked at it. I could see it on the monitor.
What do they do? Put a camera in your vein or
in
something?
your groin muscle.
In the groin
And
muscle.
run
That's,
it right
did
up
that scare you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you don't feel a thing. But the interesting thing is that you can look at the inside of your anatomy on camera and see that ugly, you know, dark spot right there in the vein. And that means it is blocked. So they said 95%. Do you want the angioplasty now? I said, of course. What are we waiting for? So they ran it up, blew it out.
Were you conscious? Or they put you all the way under for that?
Almost under.
Yeah.
They said it might come back, as many of them do. 40% of them come back within 6 months. Mine did. I had to get an atherectomy, which is the roto-rooter, which is an even more intense procedure, but even with better results. It hasn't been back since.
You have good insurance, so I mean, like Joy didn't have to make any phone calls right away from Miami.
No, I have what you have, the after insurance.
Yeah, the after insurance, that's right. Did that change your perspective on anything getting that sick? Because, I mean, when you get like, this may be it,
sure.
Did you start doing old Notre Dame prayers and stuff?
Well, even though they said, you know, it wasn't that serious, it is serious. And when you're on that gurney and they wheel you into that room, gives you a few seconds to really think that maybe, who knows what can happen in there. Yeah, I thought about how I would miss everything, you know, my family, my work, everybody, and a feeling of sadness overcame me.
Did you cry and start to weep?
No, I didn't cry. I said I want to stay alive because I want Roger Ailes to interview me.
All right, we got to wrap it up. To show you how much I really respect this man, would you please autograph this book for me?
Really?
See, I want you to know that I didn't throw the book out of lack of respect. Coming up next is Adam Walensky. You stay with us. Regis, great to see you.
Nice to see you, Roger.
Okay.
Good luck.
Good luck with the book, all right? We'll be back in